You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to another edition of the program. And today, in our series, in the sense of going back and forth, talk to various people in the film industry here in Maryland, you may have wondered sometimes when you see a fight scene or a car crash or somebody falling out of a building, what's that about and who are the people that do those things? Well, those are, stunt performers. And today we have, and we're lucky to have, one of the well-known stunt performers in our area, Dylan Hintz. Welcome, Dylan.
Hi, Paul.
Tell us a little bit, first, your bio.
My bio?
A little bit like, where you're from, how, that kind of thing, a little background, where you went to school, just a little, about you, not about your career. I'm not talking about your career bio.
I'm born and bred in Montgomery County, Maryland, Shady Grove Hospital. Grew up around Gaithersburg and Lanesville my whole life. Eventually graduated from Quince Orchard High School and went out to prestigious Salisbury University on the Eastern Shore. Started a film club out there while studying communications and film theory. Acted a little bit. Did a couple of short films and a couple of little indie produced films with the other filmmakers out there, and then came home and was like, what now? And then eventually stunts.
So then you mentioned interest in movies and some of that communications. So what came first for you, the interest in stunts or interest in movies?
So this is where it gets kind of interesting for me because I've only kind of had this realization over the last couple of years. I was raised by my mom to love movies. She took me to see the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman movie in theaters in 1989. I was born in 1987.
You were 2.
I was like 18 months old. Yeah, so I've just been kind of marked since the beginning to do this kind of thing. When I was a child, I lived on a street called Deanna Drive near Ladensville, Maryland. It was in the middle of nowhere. There were only like 3 other kids on the block. And I was the kid that was saying, let's play superheroes, let's do haunted houses, let's do stunt shows in the summer, like we did like an Indiana Jones show. I have no idea where all that came from. It might have had something to do with watching Terminator 2 when I was 5 years old. I have no idea. Seeing Aliens when I was 6. All these things were always fascinating to me, seeing other people create other worlds. But along with playing superheroes and all this other stuff, I always loved being physical. And I did a little bit of sports, but I was never a competitive kid. I just wanted to create. So I think what I've realized in the last 5 or 6 years running the Stunt Coalition and building short films and performances and theatrical productions and making movies, I've always been loving merging movement with creation. Okay,
well, it sounds like I was going to ask you, you're saying you must have been an active kid,
On my own time. I was that kid that when he played baseball in like 7th grade was the one digging his hands into the outfield, not paying attention. My ADD extended as far as my imagination did. So,
So you have ADD, or
I don't know.
You don't know. You just.
It's my generation. It's
all right.
what we. But when I'm on a set working stunts or something like that, I'm super focused. Like I'm all alert. I'm totally invested. It's just something clicks. So I don't think it's like really an ADD thing. I think it's just what interests you. My younger brother loves sports. Me, I don't know what sport's going on right now. I don't even know. So
baseball.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the hockey championship.
The hockey, I did see that on Facebook.
The Caps.
Yes.
You should be happy with that.
Hockey is cool.
Yeah, because we just had a guy in here, Mark Schell, who does films.
Oh yeah.
And he's a big Caps fan.
I've worked with him before.
He's a big Caps fan.
Mark's great.
Yeah, he was here last week.
Oh.
And so part of it to say now, where did martial arts or fighting come in for you? I mean, some kids, they take their kids to karate school when they're kids. And did you get involved with martial arts at a young age?
Originally, I did. I did martial arts. I did karate when I was like 7 years old, but maybe something wasn't clicking, and my parents were like, this probably isn't for you right now, so we're going to pull you out of martial arts for right now. And I didn't come back to it until I got into high school. And I was really looking for a physical outlet, and I wasn't really into joining the sports teams in high school. I tried doing theater, I didn't really get into that, but I found a kung fu school local to where I lived that didn't even have a name yet. It would eventually be called Self-Mastery Systems. And it was a traditional kung fu school, and it was very much about meditation and forms and conditioning, very little about fighting. So it was really cool. I was learning the art before I was learning the practical application and the combat.
So you also talked about you did a little acting previous. So part of you would say, I would say, here's a choice to say, why, let's say, not take an acting career path and instead take a stunt career path?
Oh, that's a great question. I was kind of always two sides of the coin. You know, I wasn't really sure how to get into stunts when I first started. I didn't really think about it as much. I think a lot of people, when they want to be a performer, they think either an actor or a musician or something like that, somebody that is in the spotlight. I was very fortunate because, you know, I grew up in a time where mini DV was actually on its way out. I was in that last generation of mini DV filmmakers. So I had a mini DV camera, and I learned how to make movies, and I got to do that all the senior year of high school into my early college. But of course I was behind the camera, so I'd only be in front of it occasionally, but I really did love acting. So I did some theater in high school, and I did some theater in college, but it didn't necessarily stick, but I did like acting for the camera. What did end up happening, though, is one summer I applied for Six Flags America to be in their stunt show, and I got in. And I was merging all of this stuff, the martial arts, the stunts, the acting, you know, and it was the best summer job anybody like me could ask for. You know, 3 shows a day, 5-6 days a week, 80-degree weather with an Amadeus wig on, 90-degree weather, 100-degree weather. It was
very,
hot.
very warm. Right?
Yeah, but it was amazing. I sweat a lot.
Yeah, Six Flags in the summer of 2009.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That was it.
That pirate show. Or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you've done your research.
I do that.
The skeletons in the closet
And that's
coming out.
And that's where it started for you, really? As far as getting a taste of performing and doing combining some acting with stunts, and you played 2 roles, I believe.
Yeah, I had a dual role. Usually in those shows, people would get cast for multiple roles, and we'd sort of switch around. But in this summer, originally I got in, but I couldn't take it because I was still in college. But I made the best decision I ever made on that phone call when they said, "We'd love to have you. I'm sorry, I'm still in college for another 2 months. But if anything comes up, you can call me."
Right.
And somehow, 2 months later, they were like, "Hey, 2 of our guys didn't work out. Can you come in?" And so I did. This was the first time I actually got to do anything paid and professional in front of an audience or in front of a camera or anything like that. And just that first feeling of validation of being paid to do something that I loved was amazing. And it was also the same summer that I took my first Kung Fu test. So it was like this big confluence of just all these things that I loved kind of coming and pouring themselves into just one moment for me.
So you weren't one of those people, let's say, were influenced by a movie like, or the series of movies, The Karate Kid.
I love The Karate Kid, but it wasn't a big influence for me.
Okay.
I will say, though, that when I asked to be in the Six Flags stunt show, it was a lot because I grew up watching the Batman stunt show at Six Flags.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, when they had that, like, I guess 15 years ago, 17 years ago, before the Christian Bale movies came out and they decided to pull back on the Tim Burton look, I was like, I want to drive the Batmobile, or I want to be the Joker, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that really influenced me. But martial arts movies have been a big part of my life. You know, I watched 36 Chamber of Shaolin 3 times in a row the night before my Kung Fu test. I've been a huge fan of Jet Li's Fearless since it came out in theaters. You know, older movies as well, but those are like 2 of my highlights.
Now, like for TV, it's a show my parents still like watch, is Walker, Texas Ranger. And boy, was there a lot of pseudo fighting in that.
Oh no, there's fighting. It's Chuck Norris's style.
It's his style, and even the bad guys a lot of times, I mean, it's surprising to me, he was blowing people away, but a lot of times the bad guys also had some of the same moves he did with the round kicks and the whole thing.
I haven't watched the show to have like a photographic memory of it, but what I will say is, like, I'm sure that's the kind of show that started a lot of careers.
It probably did.
And I will say that anytime I walked into the nursing home and my grandmother was watching that show, she'd look at me, and depending on what my facial hair was like, she'd be like, "Oh, you're just like him. And I'm like, yeah. She would always compare what I was doing to being on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh, that was her reference point.
My grandmother, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That or watching Gunsmoke or something.
Right. Something like
cowboy
that.
stuff.
But I guess as it further goes along, because I can jump back and forth a little, is to say, okay, you did that thing in 2009, all right? From that, though, had you made that fork in the road yet and said, oh, acting or stunts, or can I do both?
No. I always wanted to see where the world would take me.
Okay.
I like acting. I do. And if you want to hire me to act, I'm available to act. You just got to pay me. And I
hear that, folks?
Well, see, I feel like that's the difference is like, I don't know if I'll ever be the stunt guy that falls out of like the 120th story building in LA on fire, in slow motion in Metallica video. But I love fight scenes. I love fight choreography. I love action scenes in movies. When it comes to acting, I never developed a taste after doing it for like a year in the DMV area on a bunch of indie films and everything like that. I never developed a taste for like, I want to get that Oscar performance. I want to like change the world with the way that I talk. I like doing it, but it's never been what I've wanted to do to affect the world around me as much. So I went more into stunts because I love working with people to see how I can help them learn to move differently. That's why I started the Stunt Coalition. I wanted to have people to play with in this way. And when I started seeing some people were getting a lot out of it, it got my brain turning in another direction, which is going to be like my next part of my career, maybe for the next 5 years down the road after I'm done with stunts or something
We'll
like that.
have to hear about that.
Yeah.
If you're ready to talk about it.
There's things that I can say and there's things that I won't.
Because, I mean, there are people out there who are, actors who do their own stunts or they're action stars.
Yes.
Or they do say they do 80 or 90% of their stunts. I think even at his age, Tom Cruise is supposed to be still doing most of his stunts on Mission Impossible.
He does a lot. He does a lot. I mean, the inside industry scoop is that he does a lot. He has a double. Even a lot of us in the industry don't know who that guy is. I'm sure there's plenty of people that do. I don't. But he does a lot of his own stuff. Well, I mean, it's a risk-based occupation.
Yes, unfortunately.
Expendables isn't
we'll
just
get
the
into
title of a movie.
those risks in a little while. So let me see, where am I? All right, yes, I got through the Six Flags. All right.
Best summer job.
Here, part of it is what skills are needed to be a stunt performer?
Well, first you have common sense skills, which most of us start out having very little since this is the career we want to pursue. But basics. You have to have a solid sense of physicality. Like you have to have good spatial awareness. You need to know where you are. You have to have good coordination, and you need to be physically fit. What you're going to be doing is going to be take after take after take after take. So it's not like it's something that you can just do once and be done with. You do have to have. You shouldn't have a death wish.
Okay.
You shouldn't be like a daredevil sort of guy that's looking to jump over the Grand Canyon, although legacy stunts are a thing. You should want to be able to preserve yourself for the next job. So you do have to have a little bit of an adrenaline addiction, but you also need to have a sense of personal responsibility. One of the things that I love about stunts is that it humbled me and made me care about the people around me a lot more. That's one reason why I got into it more than acting, is that it was a job where you look out for the other guy, you look out for production, and you do look out for yourself. That being said, one of the number one things about being a stunt performer is knowing when to say, no, I can't. Because, an actor can do a dramatic scene and they can actually take some psychotraumatic damage if they go too deep into a character. We can break our necks doing some of the stuff that we're asked to do, especially if we're not at the skill level where we can do it. So like I said, I'm not going to, if someone said, hey, would you want to jump out of this 120-story building tomorrow, I'd be like, you need to get somebody with a little bit more experience than me.
Okay.
So humility is a big part of stunts. You do have to be brave, and you do have to step it up from time to time. You do have to be tough. You have to cowboy up. You have to do the stuff that isn't going to be fun. But you get paid pretty nicely for it, and you get to do some cool stuff, and you get to have the best job in the world, which is working on movies.
Well, there you go. I think you're starting to answer some of the questions I asked earlier, which is great. You're coming to awareness of what one of the things that got you into stunts as opposed to
got me-
acting. You just answered that
It's fun.
All right, well, give us what your skill set is. The various skills. If somebody wants to hire you as a stunt performer, what is your skill set?
Okay. For starters, I do have enough of an acting background that I know how to perform for camera, and I know how to perform for an audience. So, especially if you're ever going to be on a set and the director's asking you to do a thing, you got to be directable. One of my biggest first stunt scenes was working on a TV show called Outsiders.
Okay.
I didn't have to fall off of a high building. I didn't have to get lit on fire. I didn't have to do a very complicated fight, but I did have to do this rush up a hill, fighting through the mud. This video's on YouTube. And I didn't have any lines, but after the first take, the director said, that was great, except you were really goofy and over the top. And I was like, okay, because I gave them everything I could, and it was this ridiculous scene where we were all hillbillies fighting our way up a mountain so that I could get married.
Okay.
The scene explains itself.
But it was too much. You gave them too much.
I gave them too much. I was too much of that yokel sort of
so
look.
They wanted to hey, dial it down.
Dial it down.
Yeah.
So in take two, I dialed it down. I ran up the hill. My eyes got big, but my mouth didn't. You know, I was aware. The acting was there. I was still really physical. I still got kicked to the ground. I still got kicked around, and the director was like, oh, the stunt guy can act. So being able to take direction. Through that entire process of that scene, I had to remember different fight beats. I had to interact with people of all different types of body types. I had to slip in the mud. I had to fall over. I had to roll around. These are all my basic skills, are rolling, tumbling, what we call ground and pound, which is hitting the ground hard. Fight choreography, which can either be short little bits, but really if you want to be a high-level stunt performer, you have to do long-form choreography, which can be anything from 12 to 20 to 50 moves at a time. They're not necessarily bop, 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 bop Jackie Chan moves, but you know, you could be doing like a long take hallway fight like in Daredevil where there's like 6 beats per every like 20 seconds and they're just hard hits and hitting the ground and getting up, acting like you're breathing really heavy, being really tired without being really tired. So it is a performance-based skill. I can do some falls. I can fall up to about 20, maybe 30 feet, depending on what kind of airbags provided for me or the stunt in general. I've been lit on fire a little bit, so I can do a little bit of that. I'm looking to get more training in that soon. And I've ridden wires a couple of times, not professionally yet, but in training. So that's when they hook you up and they zip you around a room or something like that.
Oh, okay. I think I was say maybe the famous, I got the guy's name here, but he invented something called the decelerator.
Yeah, jeez, I should know that name, shouldn't I? I don't know, is that a Hal Needham thing?
No, but that'll be a quiz later.
Yeah, ooh, I'm feeling that one.
I'll look him up. But my point was, I noticed too, we talked about different skill sets, I noticed that you actually, I don't know if you're trained, but you did fencing in turn.
Yes, I got to do a small sword fight in AMC's Turn. It was choreographed by Kevin Inoue, who is a Society of American Fight Directors certified teacher. He's also a SAG-AFTRA stunt performer. He was out of Richmond at the time. I believe he's somewhere in the Midwest now teaching at a school. It was very awesome. Kid Richmond hired me as the stunt coordinator. He hired me to be the performer because I had some sword experience, but I hadn't used that weapon before. I hadn't actually ever done traditional fencing or even Olympic fencing, but I had taken some stage combat weapons and I had done some other sword play. So I was very lucky because Kevin was hired to be my scene partner because he knew the weapon.
Right.
So the first day we came in for like the fitting was also our first like fight, build, and rehearsal day. And Kevin and I, we just banged out this fight for like 5 hours.
Great.
You know, and then on the day when we were hired to be on set, we got there at 7 in the morning, we got dressed up, we got wigged up, had nothing to do for 12 hours, banged out the fight for another 8 hours over the 12-hour day. And then at 7 o'clock when the sun went down and we were brought onto set, we did the fight 3 times and it ended up in the show, which was really cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, you're a fencing master or anything. Because there was a guy who used to teach everybody how to sword fight in Hollywood in the old days. You know, like Errol Flynn, all those guys. He taught them how to do all those great scenes they did. You know?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys. I mean, you got like Bob Anderson.
I think that was him. I think that was the guy.
Yeah, there was another guy that a big stage combat conference that Kevin and I went to 2 years ago called the Paddy Crane Workshop up in Canada is named after him. He was one of Errol Flynn's stunt doubles, and he brought a lot of theatrical fencing to a lot of the world. So.
Well, I think part of what you're talking about too, and when I talk about that outsiders thing, that to make stunt acting believable, you really do have to also be an actor. In a sense, we would say in music, you have to be able to sell it to make it seem real.
Yes. Yeah. Selling, reactions, those are your bread and butter. If you can't sell a punch, if you can't sell a reaction, and if you can't hit the ground and make it look gnarly, like you have to make it look worse than it is.
You have to eat dirt.
Yeah, you have to eat something. Rat, dirt, there's
whatever's
other words.
there on the ground.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's a big part of the sort of glossary of terms right there, is you've got to go.
Yeah.
And you can't make it look soft.
So you're not saying that to be a stunt performer, you have to be a martial artist.
No, but it can help. But it can also hinder.
Oh, it can hinder. How can it hinder?
If your only background is martial arts, which there are martial arts that are based in reality, there are martial arts that are based in tradition, and there are martial arts that are based in performance in a sense that there are demos and everything like that. But if all you've ever done is this one specific type of movement, you might have trouble adapting to what's needed for the camera. And that's not something that you can't train out of. It's just everything that you were taught that was effective can no longer be effective. You can't throw a punch the same way in real life as you can on film. There are some martial arts movies and some martial arts styles where they hit each other. You've got the movies in Indonesia, you've got the movies in Thailand. But for the American style of it, we do prefer to use stacked hits or light contact hits, or we do different camera tricks to sell what we're doing most of the time. But being a high-level martial artist is a huge asset. I've trained in a lot of martial arts. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different martial arts. I am a black belt in nothing.
Oh, okay.
I've been a senior student in Kung Fu. I'm an apprentice instructor in Filipino Combatives Global under Felix Cortez. I've been a coach with the Maryland Jeet Kune Do Academy, but in no way, shape, or form do I ever go, I'm a martial arts master. I've taken everything I can from the different stuff that I've learned, and I apply it when I can for choreography, and I've also used it so that when I'm training with these guys, I'm learning different body mechanics. I'm learning how the body moves, and I'm also learning what they're doing to me with their styles so that I know how to react to it. So what they can do to me is what I need to be able to sell, because when like the Kempo master in the movie, like Perfect Weapon or whatever, comes and beats me up with all these moves, I need to actually be like, I need to know what all those reactions are.
Yeah, you have to know what's coming.
Yeah, I have to know what's coming, and then I have to know what it looks like to be hit by it. Or at least I have to show what it should look like to be hit by it.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing about being a real martial artist. If you're a trained fighter, if you're like an MMA fighter and everything like that, you're actually training to like absorb hits. And like keep like a stiff neck and keep like a tight frame. So you're all tight like this, and this doesn't look good selling a hit. You have to go boom, boom, boom.
Right.
That part I'm great at.
Okay.
So I've taken what I've learned and I've applied it to the medium in which I have to present it.
Right. Now, I don't know if this is true anymore, but I think myth, and this is again educating the audience, because I like to get people who are also behind the camera, is to say that it used to be, I thought, they used to say years ago, and I can talk about the guy who gets set on fire, they used to say that stunt performers get paid more if it's a more difficult stunt, like getting set on fire or 20 feet out of a building, or even there are artists that are just specialists in certain things, like being set on fire, or as I've seen in somebody I want to get in here, their title is precision driver.
Okay. Those are two separate questions in a sense, and I'll explain.
Please.
I'll explain the first part
Enlighten
first.
us all.
Well, okay, first of all, I'm 7 years-ish into being a professional, so since 2009 when I worked at a theme park and then moving up into the industry, in 2013 when I got my SAG eligibility, and then 2014 when I got my SAG card. So I'm working my way further into the industry. The budget and business side of things is something that we all, on the younger years, don't research enough, and we probably should. But I will say, when you are doing a more dangerous stunt, that can cost more. Just renting the equipment can cost more. So usually there's a kit rental, and of course the person that's renting out that kit's going to also collect that money. One fire burn, one take of that could, let's say, theoretically, hypothetically, cost $1,000. Well, if you want to light me on fire again, that's going to be another $1,000. If you want me to fall 40 feet again, that's going to be another $800. Now, myself, I've done a couple of hard hits to the ground, and the stunt coordinator, who I was working for, would pen in under the adjustments a $200 stunt adjustment, a $200 bump, sometimes is what we call it. So you do get more money for the more hazard you put yourself through on a fully financed set.
Right.
If you're doing an independent film or something like that, it's going to be like, look, we have $125 a day. We'll let you do what you want to do so you can get in your reel. Great, I'll do something big because I know you'll shoot it the way I need you to shoot it because you're not paying me anything. So that's our kind of like trade for work.
Gotcha.
And that's why a lot of stunt guys and a lot of actors as well do student films and stuff like that. It's because they have a higher expectation of knowing what they're going to get out of it, as opposed to like anything I've ever done for TV, which usually goes through the editing blender.
Right.
You know, that one shot and turn, that little sword fight that we did, I'm super pumped because it's one long take. It was supposed to be chopped up, actually. There was supposed to be dialogue going on in between. It ended up being part of a montage, but that's still only a third of the fight.
Yeah.
But it still is cool enough that I like putting it on my reel because it's obvious that this was for a real movie or a real TV show. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
The second part, the precision driving thing, is kind of a modern myth.
Oh, it is?
Precision driving is not its own class.
Oh, okay.
Now, again, I could be mincing my words a little bit here, but I have gone to a stunt driving program. I've been to Rick Seaman's stunt driving school, the one that he hosts up in Wall, New Jersey. Stunt driving is stunt driving is stunt driving. Background driving is background driving is background driving, or just regular driving on screen. So you're either driving, which is always precision because you have to hit a mark, you have to not hit anything else, or you're stunt driving. And that's really the SAG-AFTRA, this is this and that is
That's
that.
it.
That should be it. Precision driving is sometimes, by my understanding, and I could be wrong, so feel free to correct me out there on the YouTubes, there was kind of like a branch of it that was brought in for commercial, like when you're doing like a car commercial and the car's like driving beautifully down the highway or something like that. But there was also a time, I can't remember if it was the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, where supposedly some assistant director or unit production manager basically got together a bunch of background, trained them up to do, like if this was the skill level, this high of the skill level, but trained like a bunch of people to be a core specific unit to be hired to be Precision Drivers of America or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not knocking anybody's way to get work or anything like that. I'm just saying stunt driving is supposed to be anything hazardous is stunt driving, anything not is regular driving.
Okay, so it's not something that came out of the Fast and Furious series or anything.
I'm sure somebody was used somewhere along the line, but I'm sure that that movie series also employed a lot of stunts.
Now, what I had heard too, and you can tell me if this is true, they said to be actually a professional stunt person, you have to have some kind of fight training or go to a fight school, and you have to get some sort of certification. Is that true?
No. There are no certificates.
Well, that will blow out of YouTube because I think I got that from Wikipedia.
That's okay. Now,
and I'm not worried. We want to correct Wikipedia.
Well, okay, so I believe, and I could be very wrong here, that in both Australia and England there is some sort of stunt certification of some kind.
Right.
I need to research that more, but that's what I heard way back in the day when I first started.
But not in America.
In America, it's the Wild West.
Okay.
Your career is based off of your reputation. So if you go on a YouTube show and you say a bunch of things that aren't true and you make stuff up, your reputation goes downhill. And then maybe you don't get hired again. Or you go and you say, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll figure that out and I'll get back to you.
Right.
The more you lie, the worse it gets. Certifications can be a thing. You can get certified to show up to a class and take a class and have a certificate of completion.
Right, sure.
It's just like martial arts. Like a martial arts certificate says that somebody says that you have this.
Right.
So for instance, I have a certificate of completion for taking Rick Seaman's driving school.
There you go.
The motion picture driving clinic. I did a full week of it, so I did level 1 and level 2. That means I feel comfortable behind the wheel doing certain things. But that doesn't mean that right out of that school, they're going to hire me to do a 180 or a 360 or do an insane car chase. The first job I'm probably going to get is just driving next to another stunt car while they're going crazy in between the background cars and the stunt cars. I'll probably be the one closer to it, like a buffer car, kind of. There are certificates that you can get for fighting through stage combat, such as through the Society of American Fight Directors. I have 8 of those. I've done all 8 weapons in the Society of American Fight Directors.
Okay.
But really all that matters is usually the demo reel. Can you show what you can do in a video? And a lot of coordinators now want to see less editing and more performing. Show what you're capable of. Can you do it over and over and over again? Can you do it reliably? So reputation, reliability, and being able to demonstrate what you're capable of, and a resume with references. It's a lot of R's, not a lot of certificates. But does it help if you're OSHA certified? Probably. Does it help if you're first aid CPR certified? Probably. The set medic should take care of that stuff, but it's nice to know that you know things. And the more certifications you have in other things, like you do have to be scuba certified, you know, to do scuba.
Yeah.
You know, but it's per the skill set.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, I also read, and you can either tell me it's true or that it's again a myth, that stunt performers need to be insured.
I mean, if you need to get your own insurance on a multi-million-dollar film, you better figure out who you're working for.
So I just wondered. I said, my question was, does the film company insure you, or does a stunt performer have to carry his or her insurance from job to job?
I think anybody should have their own personal insurance.
But I mean, for doing something, it's riders are in there.
It is
the weird
production.
stuff that you're doing. You know?
It is the production's responsibility. Sometimes, like even on indie films and stuff not every independent film you're ever going to work on is going to have full insurance. If that's an issue for you, walk away. If you think you're going to be pressured into doing something, or if you think the worst might happen, walk away. If you require that they have insurance and they don't have the budget for it, they might not get it. We're talking very low budget films.
Yeah.
Once they're assigned like a SAG sort of agreement of some level, I don't know if it's required for them to have insurance. I'll go ask the SAG-AFTRA office tomorrow. Like I'll call them up and ask. But it is expected that they have like workman's comp and stuff like that.
Sure.
So the production should be insured for stunts, because if they don't have the money to be insured for stunts, then a lot of the times the producer's going to be like, well, then we're not going to do the stunts. We're just going to do it all off camera.
Right. The thing with the risks in being a stunt performer, I'll touch on that briefly. What I read was that because you did the Six Flags show, they said that stunts are more dangerous in a live show than on a film set.
There's a lot of reasons for that. And I would tend to agree with that. I think the number one reason would be, I don't want to say carelessness, I would say complacency. Let's say you've done the same show 30 or 40 times, and it's like, I know it's going to happen, I know it's going to happen, I know it's safe, I know it's not safe, I've done it 100 times, it's fine. So one time one guy doesn't check his gag. Like there's a zip line or something, and he doesn't check the brake for it because he's done it 30 or 40 times, and he's complacent with it.
Gotcha.
That's when the injury is likely to happen. You're also talking about like, a lot of stunt shows are like kind of where it's like amateur baseball. It's like it's where you get started. It's a good place to train and it's younger people in shape. So maybe they're going to get more likely to get hurt in that case. There's probably also a smaller ratio of employment versus like the film industry because there's only so many stunt shows now.
Right.
But I would say complacency is the big thing, because when you're on a film set and the pressure's on, like you're double, triple checking everything. You're reverse engineering everything. You're trying to make sure nothing can go wrong. There's always that factor that you don't know, but you're trying to imagine every single thing. Stunts for film are always supposed to be as safe as humanly possible. It's a safe risk. It's not a risky risk. You know, it's controlled chaos. So, I mean, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but that would be my thought as to why that could be a thing.
Okay. And have you been hurt or broken any bones in your work?
Not in my work.
Okay.
I've only ever injured myself in training. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I saw a lot of different titles of things with stunts, and so maybe you can enlighten in a little bit of time we have left. One is a fight coordinator.
A fight coordinator, similarly but different to a fight choreographer, tends to bring in the people for the fight. It's probably a term that's evolved since it first came out. The stunt coordinator on a large budget production is doing like the coordination for everything.
Right.
The car chases, the falls, advising the fights. But they're not going to be able to choreograph every single unit. They're not going to be in charge of every single rigger. They're not going to be in charge of every single mechanical thing. They're not going to be lighting every person on fire. So they're going to have units that are sort of splinters of the central head of the beast, as it were.
Okay.
So a fight coordinator is usually a specialist brought in who really understands fight choreography, also maybe training the actor, helping them get up to a level where they can do more of their own fight, working with the doubles to work with the actors so that the actors and the doubles know the fight together, so that they can kind of seamlessly switch out. It's like having a second link in your chain of command.
Now, what's the difference between a cover stunt and a utility stunt?
It's a cover stunt.
That's what I thought I wrote down.
Yeah, it's a cover stunt.
Cover stunt coordinator.
Oh, cover stunt coordinator, which is something similar to a term that I've put on my IMDb,
Right.
is, for instance, I worked on a TV show called Brain Dead for, I believe it was CBS, and I came in as the stunt performer for the day under another coordinator, who I thought was gonna be there because it was a big New York production shooting a second unit in DC. I showed up on set and I found that my name was under stunt coordinator, and I was like, oh, this is new. I mean, I'd had like 10 credits at that point. I kind of knew some stuff,
So
but I
you
was
were
still
covering for the stunt coordinator.
I was covering for the stunt
There
coordinator.
it is.
I was also the only stunt performer that day, and all I had to do was run into an actress. So I could understand why the stunt coordinator might not want to drive the 500 miles or so from New York to DC to do the gag himself.
Now, was there something I wrote it down? It said utility stunts.
Utility stunts are basically like stunts on hand.
Okay.
Do you need somebody to move a mat?
Yeah.
Do we need to wait for the train?
No, go.
Okay.
Keep
Do you
going.
need somebody to move a mat? Do you need somebody to run around in the background and fall over? Do you need a stunt person buffering between background and the major action?
Gotcha.
So like a full-fledged stunt performer is probably doing something that's highlighted, like falling off of a ledge or something like that. A utility stunt performer is usually somebody that's assisting with like a larger thing or helping out with something not necessarily on camera, like running spotting on a mat or something.
Now, we toss around a lot, and people commonly, and I wonder if I get it right, stunt double. Now, does that simply mean that the stunt actor or actress does the stunt work for the actor?
Yeah. I mean, that's
That's
pretty
all it
basic.
really means.
Yeah, so I mean, a stunt double is somebody that's put in when anything that the principal actor themselves, they could possibly do it, but it might be too risky for insurance reasons. It might be too risky for production reasons. I mean, if they stub their toe and they can't walk for a week, production's going to stop.
Yeah.
So anytime that it seems just a little too risky, a stunt double is going to be put in. Now, most lead actors in any movie that has any sort of action whatsoever, they're going to have a stunt double that's available for any of those scenes, regardless of whether or not they're used. So like, for instance, when I worked on Black Mass, I actually didn't have to do any on-screen doubling for Jesse Plemons, but I was hired to work on the fight, and I was hired to be there for all of his scenes that involved him doing anything physical.
Oh, but you also, I think, stunt doubled for Eric Roberts.
Eric.
Did you not?
Yes, I stunt doubled for Eric Roberts on a local film. What was it called? Oh man, now I feel bad. Day of the Gun. Of course, how
Okay.
could I forget that? For Wayne Shipley.
Oh,
local
the Wayne
filmmaker.
Shipley.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Wayne Shipley.
Just finished the
Just
movie.
He just did another one, yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted me because for some reason he looked at Eric Roberts and he looked at me and he went, you look just like him. Okay?
In a long shot, maybe?
Yeah, but the fun thing was Eric was very capable of doing a lot of his own stuff. Originally, they weren't sure if he needed a riding double. Eric owns horses.
Oh, okay.
Eric doesn't need a riding double.
He's really good at that.
But there was like a scene where there was a steep cliff that we had to like climb up and drag like a woman by a rope up and everything like that, and we had doubles for that just so that we went and didn't make Eric Roberts climb up a cliff 20 times.
Okay.
I also did some falls for him, and I did some like inserts of gunplay, twirling a gun and stuff like that. But the guy pretty much could do a lot of his own physical stuff. I mean,
good for him.
He's still kicking. So
yeah, he is.
He's a cool guy. And I actually met him on another set like 2 years later.
Did you?
Hometown Hero, a movie that shot up in Pennsylvania. I played one of the Aryan gang thug members.
Okay.
It was very bizarre. I got thrown into a tree. It was awesome.
Terrific. Well, we could go on like this forever.
We could.
But time is up.
Time is of the essence.
And we need you to, again, look in your camera, give people your contact information, people that maybe you want to hire you, or just tell them about you. In fact, I didn't even get into this, but you're here this weekend also for Escape Velocity 2018.
Right.
And what are you doing there? I'll have to get that in real quick.
All right, so let's get that in real quick. I run a company called the DC Stunt Coalition. It's an open source networking and training organization for stunt professionals and aspiring stunt professionals in the DC area. We also allow for action actor training. Part of our outreach is that we go to conventions such as Escape Velocity or Awesome Con, and we teach workshops and we hold a booth and we allow people to come up and ask us questions like you've been asking, and we teach people basics of fight choreography, and we just help people have fun.
Okay.
So I totally implore anybody that has an interest in what we're doing to check out the DC Stunt Coalition. I probably should have brought that up more while we were talking tonight.
It's on your shirt.
It's on my shirt, my favorite shirt. That is the thing that I've tried to pay forward to the DC area, because I did get a lot of experience starting out here. I learned so much. I've been able to build a really cool career out of it, so I try and keep this gym open for everybody else that wants a shot.
Right, I'd never heard of Escape Velocity before, but I did look at the lineup, and it seems like it's combining real science people and science fiction people, like famous science fiction authors, as well as with the PhD scientists. And it doesn't hurt that it's at the MGM Grand.
Well, it's right down the street from it. It's at Gaylord National
Harbor
Hotel.
It was there. I thought it was
Parking
there.
over there is good. You can just Uber over.
Okay, it's close.
Yeah, Escape Velocity is wonderful. It is exactly like you said. It's merging arts and science. So teaching fight choreography is really cool because we talk about kind of the science of fighting. So I talk about Psi fighting.
Oh, interesting. And how can people contact you and find you?
So yeah, my name's Dylan Hintz. You can reach me. Oh, I got to look into the camera. My name is Dylan Hintz. You can reach me on the internet. My personal email address is dylanhintzmedia@gmail.com, or you can find the DC Stunt Coalition at dcstuntcoalition.org or dcstuntcoalition@gmail.com to get in touch with us immediately. We have our Instagram, Twitter at DCStuntGo, and you can also find us or myself on Facebook.
Terrific. And again, thank you for coming. And we'll have you back to maybe talk about those next 5 years of your career or upcoming projects. Okay.
Yes.
Well, folks, here we are again, and that's the end of another one of our programs, and it was a great one. It was great to have Dylan here, and we'll see you next time on the Paul Stefan Show or one of the other shows that I do. So until then, bye-bye.
You're watching the Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.